Some changes are coming to Fayetteville schools.
Renovations and some new buildings. A live report's ahead.
Plenty of sunshine for today. Daytime highs back up into the 70s. We'll talk about it coming up.
And all eyes on Rome. The latest on the health of Pope Francis as people gather to pray around the world. Covering news where you live.
Your 5 News this morning starts now.
It starts now.
A little glitch there.
Yeah. Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for waking up with us. I think we can't say it enough. The big story today is just this weather. As you're waking up, heading to work, you're going to notice, you're going to love it.
I need this day forever.
I know. This is like the ideal day for everybody where it's sunny and 70 outside, not too hot, not too cold. It's just one of those perfect days today, and you get to enjoy it all day long.
It's like we're tasting our porridge around here.
I know, exactly. We're getting a little bit closer towards spring every day. Unfortunately, we're going to get a little bit cooler for tomorrow. But I tell you what, the roller coaster that we were on over the past several weeks, and we're coming towards the end of it. Now we're going to see less of those big jumps and those big drops now, kind of just steadying out the rest of this week. Current temperatures out there right now, really comfortable start to the morning, upper 30s, low 40s. Might need that light jacket for some. Others saying it's too warm for that out there this morning. Definitely by this afternoon, I won't need it, so I'm just going to leave it at home. When we look at the 24-hour temperature change, it looks like this, about 5 to 10 degrees warmer from this time yesterday. I think this afternoon, we're around 10 degrees up to 15 degrees warmer than yesterday afternoon. So getting a little bit warmer for today. Of course, that cold front, though, comes in for tomorrow, and that's going to bring in some of that cooler air and some of those rain chances. We'll worry about tomorrow here in just a little bit, but enjoy today, because by the time we get to this afternoon, we're going to be back up into the low to mid 70s, plenty of sunshine all day long across the river valley. That's where we have the best chance of seeing some of those mid to upper 70s today with plenty of sunshine, especially once we get into the mid-morning into the early afternoon. It's at that peak heating hour of the day where it's going to feel the most comfortable. Get outside this evening, even after work, still going to be very comfortable outside. We'll talk about that cold front for tomorrow coming up in just a bit.
These are the days that Stephen walks around here with his head held high, saying, you know, I'm the man of the hour with the forecast.
Yeah, I'd be going into every public place, right? Just getting a little pat on the back.
He
You're
deserves it after maybe what he faced last week from the people who didn't appreciate that weather.
Hey, all the
I think
kids
you're right
out of
about that.
school loved it.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, well, the Fayetteville School District getting ready for some big changes, including a new campus for some junior high schools and a shift in how students will be distributed.
Morgan, you spoke with the superintendent about the timeline for these plans and what families can expect.
Yeah, that's right. And the district tells me 2 of its junior highs are going to be getting some new buildings, and 1 middle school will be upgraded and turned into a junior high to support the growing student population. Superintendent Dr. John Mulford tells me construction will start this summer to turn John L. Colbert Middle School into a junior high with added athletic and elective spaces. Another big project coming up is a brand new Woodland Junior High. That new building will be at the corner of Joyce and Crossover, with construction on that expected to start later this year. And Ramey Junior High also getting a new building. The initial designs for that were unveiled last month. Although that project is still in the early stages, Mulford says that new campus will be built close to its current location. And if all goes as planned, these projects will change the feeder pattern for students starting in 2027. Mulford says even though some of the construction will begin this summer, it won't disrupt day-to-day operations at the schools. But he says the community will notice some changes in traffic patterns this year.
And it's not going to impact our current schools, but people in the community will see things going on out at that intersection. So the biggest thing is going to be that Joyce Road east of Crossover will be rerouted. And that work should actually start late spring, early summer, and hopefully be open to the public sometime during the fall. And it'll be a huge improvement to that area, hopefully improve traffic flow at that particular intersection.
And with the new Ramey campus, Mulford says the district is focused on preserving green space with the goal of keeping around 60% of the tree canopy in that area. He also says while these projects are covered under the current voter-approved millage, an extension will likely be needed in the next few years to fund the final phases. Morgan Wrigley, 5 News.
All right, thanks so much for that, Morgan. Well, continuing coverage this morning, the controversial prison proposed for Franklin County has sparked debate amongst lawmakers, the governor, and community members. Last month, the state senator for the region, Brian King, proposed 6 different bills that would prevent the building of the prison.
On Monday, Senator King gave updates about his bills to give more tools to the criminal justice system in Arkansas to help lower crime rates and incarceration rates.
If we don't, do something about the high crime and they don't have some responsibility, the rest of the state shouldn't have to bear the burden of inmates or incarceration when we know that 2 out of 3 inmates in incarceration only originate from 8 counties.
When Senator King first filed his bills against the new prison, Governor Sanders' office responded saying in part that putting the burden of long-term incarceration on county jails is a failed strategy.
And police are asking to speak with anyone who has had encounters with this Bentonville man who is facing allegations of child sex crimes. Police say Andrew Apple was arrested last week, and they're asking anyone with information about him in this case to give them a call. Prosecutors in Benton County have dropped the case against Dr. Adam Moss. Now, he was accused of sexually assaulting patients after he agreed to relinquish his medical license.
Adam Moss verbally accepted to give up his Arkansas medical license by April in exchange for a noli pros of 3 sexual assault charges, essentially dismissing the case in Benton County. 5 News reporter Jacob Luthi has more.
Benton County prosecuting attorney Brian Sexton says that rulings last week by Judge Green in regards to evidentiary issues had a direct impact on the theory of the case the state was going to present. In 2022, Cave Springs Police Department received a complaint of sexual assault by Dr. Adam Moss. Court documents show a former patient of Moss claimed he touched her inappropriately without consent during a medical exam. Moss was accused of 3 counts of sexual assault from alleged actions taking place from 2020 to 2022. Sexton says in part, quote, attorneys from our office notified the victims of those rulings, discussed the resolution entered into today, and agreed to the importance of Dr. Moss surrendering his license. It goes on to read that, quote, the defendant is currently facing additional charges in Washington County, is presumed innocent regarding those charges, and has a right to a fair trial in that county. In response, Moss's attorney Shane Wilkinson says Dr. Moss should never have been arrested. They could not find one doctor to say he did anything wrong, and they sure tried. I'm glad they dismissed the case, but he would never have been arrested if the case had been scrutinized on the front end by prosecutors. Just a tiny bit of legal scrutiny would have done the trick. The medical license is not a concern for him, adding that, quote, he had no desire to practice in a county where they may decide to prosecute you for performing legitimate medical procedures. This case has sent shockwaves through the medical community. Doctors, nurses, and staff across this community are alarmed and concerned that Dr. Moss and his family had to endure this reckless arrest, end quote.
Well, court records show that Moss still faces 2 felony counts of sexual assault in Washington County. He'll appear in court next week. The search continues, though, for a 95-year-old woman from Mountain Home who has been missing now for 2 weeks.
State police say that Belva Day was last seen on February 6th, paying her electric bill in Mountain Home. Investigators say her disappearance is certainly a mystery.
It's just like she just disappeared into thin air, and that's been the challenge. There are so many possible routes. After Jeep, Arkansas, where she was last seen on the 6th, you just go down the road a few miles and you already have options to turn right, and then you have options further down the road to turn left.
Well, here's another look at the car state police say Day was last seen in. Investigator Seaman says that if you think you see the car, to take photos for law enforcement to assess their credibility.
All right, let's get you out the door this morning. Here's your traffic update for you. Here's a live look out across I-540 there over Grand Avenue. Look at that sunrise coming up. Good news is as you head out the door, don't need to worry about any accidents. Don't need to worry about any slowdowns there on the major highways and interstates. Traffic moving just fine this morning. And once we get to this afternoon, daytime highs warming up into the 70s today. We'll talk about it coming up.
Well, this morning, federal employees have a new deadline to send in a list of work accomplishments. President Donald Trump praised Elon Musk for his email to nearly 2 million federal workers, threatening terminations if they don't send in a list of 5 things that they did at work last week. Hours before the Monday deadline, Musk offered an extension, warning failure to respond a second time will result in termination. But Trump's Office of Personnel Management sent a memo to federal agency heads saying it was up to them to determine how to handle the directive. Some have already told workers not to respond. Meanwhile, Trump met with the French president at the White House, expressing optimism that a deal to end Russia's war in Ukraine could be just weeks away.
A lot of good things toward peace are happening.
This is the responsibility of Russia because the aggressor is Russia.
Both leaders agreed to establish a peacekeeping force in Ukraine if and when a deal is reached, but the president continues to split with European allies on blaming Russia for the war. Later, Russian President Vladimir Putin signaled that a peace deal could be further away than Trump's proposed timeline.
And Catholic faithful gathered in St. Peter's Square for a second night of prayers for Pope Francis. The Vatican says that the pontiff remains in critical condition, but there has been some improvement in his laboratory test. The Argentine Pope has been in the hospital since Valentine's Day for a number of health issues. Doctors have said his condition is touch and go.